Good morning, luge friends, luge family, and luge fans as we get set for event number 6 on the EBERSPA Luge World Cup Tour. We're in Winterberg. Yes, that's right. As you see in the background, it is not a typical Winterberg winter day. It is more like a real winter day with beautiful pictures and snow abound here in the Hochsauerland of northwestern Germany. Hey again, everyone, I'm Tim Singer. Welcome to our ongoing coverage of the World Cup Luge Tour. Today we've got 2 races for you. Actually, it's 3 races, but 2 races in one to start off the morning. We've got the men's and women's doubles. First run coming your way just moments away. After that, they'll reset the track. We'll get ready for run number 2 in both of those disciplines. And then day number 1 will conclude with the women's singles competition. Lots of athletes to talk about, lots of great luge news as we push our way around Germany and make our way towards the World Championships coming up in just 3 weeks in Whistler, Canada. But let's look at some of the names, some of the faces that will matter in today's competition. There, as usual, George Hackel, now in his 4th year coaching Team Austria and so instrumental in helping that equipment get quick for the Austrian team. Torsten Gurlitz from the Oberhof end of the German program. He's making sure the runners are perfect for the sled of the Tobis, or more to the point, Orlamunder and Gubitz. There will be several German sleds, 3 Austrian sleds as well. Latvians working on their last minute juggling, make sure everything's okay. Roberts Pluma, he and Martin Spots lead the World Cup standings. Now, as far as getting the track ready, it's going to be in great shape. Yesterday, during the seated training, there were several unofficial track records. Had it been an actual race, the track record would have been broken. And it was broken earlier in the day, actually, in a couple of the Nations Cup races. We'll tell you more about that in just a little bit. But that's what happens when you have nice weather here in Winterberg. You have a track that can let loose for these athletes. Now, one thing we'll tell you as we get ready to see the POV action is that because it's a sunny day and because it's hovering just around 0 Celsius, the temperature, some of the track will be covered. So that will impede your view a little bit of the action, but we'll keep you on top of everything. Our isolated cameras will have slow-mos of all of the problem areas. And we hope later on in the day, we're told they may open up those shades a little bit. There on the left was Siobhan Forgan. She and her American teammate, Sophia Kirkby, are currently number 3 in the standings for the Women's World Cup. So a welcome to all of our viewers waking up early and tuning in here in Winterberg, Germany. I know for some of you it's very early in the morning, 10:30 local time here, but 4:30 a.m. for those of you in the Lake Placid region waking up to watch the luge action, and 1:30 a.m. in Whistler. So your comments, your quotes, your criticisms, all welcome here on our YouTube chat. Marcin, the first to check in. Good morning, Marcin. Thanks for watching. Any trivia questions, any predictions you have for the World Championships, throw them into our YouTube chat. Good morning, Ken, and we will get some of those predictions out there because we're only 3 weeks away. I'm flying solo this weekend with no co-commentators. That's our technical setup here in Winterberg. So I'm totally game to be having an ongoing discussion with all of our luge fans out there. Couple of great Bavarian lugers amounting to 5 Olympic gold medals there in that last shot of the athletes and coaches of the George Hackel and Felix Lach. Great drone shots once again as you have a good look at the Veltins Kreisel that is corner number 7 on this track, but we'll take you from top to bottom in just a moment. 3 different start areas in this Winterberg track, and they're 3 very different starts. The men, whom you'll see tomorrow in men's singles, have a huge ramp. The women are rather flat start area. So there's a good look at where we are in northwestern Germany. It's about a 2-hour drive north of the city of Frankfurt, and about 2 hours due west of us is the border with the Netherlands. For today's doubles competition, the track distance, 945 meters, 11 turns. That's 11 out of the normal 14 turns from top to bottom. And there's a good look at the drone. You can see over there on the right, that's the men's and women's start, a little higher, and then the start house in the center for doubles. And the challenge hits them right away here. Curve number 5 is this big left sweeping turn. And then a couple of winding turns before the Veltenskreisel. Now it's when the action gets really hot. Out of the Kreisel, you'll have this big drop down off of curve 11, and then the 12-13 combination. Tight turns here, what they call the lower labyrinth, before a big steep uphill section, curve 14, and the finish line. As I alluded to earlier, unbelievable. We rarely see this. Beautiful, sunny day in Winterberg, Germany. Not a cloud to be found. Maybe a little later today, some clouds, and tomorrow as well. The temperature just above freezing. And again, the track is in great shape. Track records, well, that Egert-Beneken record at the start is now 9 years old. The 2 Tobys hold the track record from just a year ago. But keep in mind, yesterday during seated training, Wendel and Alt were 0.4 of a second faster than their own track records. So things could shake up pretty quickly here today. 22 sleds in today's competition. We'll get through the seated group in the middle of the pack. Orlamundur Gubic will be the last to go. Checking out the World Cup standings, it's Latvia leading the way, Bats and Kruma. They have about a 40-point lead over Toby Wendel and Toby Alt. Egert and Mueller of Germany are in third. Every one of the German doubles teams have won at least one race this year, with the other 2 victories coming from the World Cup leaders of Team Latvia. Morning Glühwein, the brats are on the grill, and we're ready for a weekend of World Cup racing in the Hochsauerland of North Rhine-Westphalia, the heart of Germany. To start things off here in the men's doubles competition, we have Team China getting ready. Sakai, Jubai, and Shui Hoi. Moments away from the track being cleared. And there we go, shields down. Time to start luging. 22 sleds here in the men's field, to be followed by 15 additional starters in women's doubles. Kick back. Thanks for watching YouTube. recorded on TikTok. You only have 2 more days left for that platform if you're in the US. On course. Track record, as you saw, 42.940. Jubai and Hui do not figure to challenge that, but it will be interesting to see what kind of time they put down here in relation. Pair of 24-year-olds making their way through the Veltenskreisel and out. Now the tricky part of this track. Negotiated pretty well with speeds at 126 kilometers an hour. Finish time of 42.231 for Team China. 78 miles per hour for those of you who work with that metric, which is not metric. It'll be interesting to see a couple of those spots. They have the shades down to protect the ice, but it appears from that last slow motion replay that there will be a couple of areas where the sun is directly in the athlete's eye. The first of the Latvians now ready. Raimons Baltgavas, Aldis Jaksboga. Earlier this year, they had a podium at the Junior World Cup that was held on this track in Winterberg. That was in December. Pair of teenagers, Baltgavas, 19 years old, and Jaksboga is 17. They did compete here last year in the World Cup, but they had a crash in the labyrinth, and they're already having issues here right on the start curve in curve number 5 and 6. Crowd already gathering in the Veltenskreisel, always a big party area at the races in Winterberg. Great sound as always down here. A half second in back of China. That's a result of those issues right at the start. You give it away at the top, you're not going to take it back. 43.772. And Martins Rubenis, the Olympic medal winning now coach of Latvia, doesn't need to say anything. He gives us a visual description of what happened right here. We are just about 12 and a half months away from the 2026 Winter Olympic Games, scheduled for Italy. So many of these nations are trying to posture themselves for the 1 or 2 doubles positions that will be available for their countries. Now, before those Olympics are the World Championships on the home track of these two, Devin Wardrope, Cole Zajanski. Good morning, Calgary. If you're up early and watching, let us know on our YouTube chat. This pair of Canadians won the Nations Cup yesterday, and they did it with a time that was just about a 1/10 of a second off of what was then the track record. It's still the track record, actually, although a couple of the seeded athletes in training shattered that. Team Canada, well out in front now, 22 years old and 23 years old. Devin cites as his favorite track the Yangjing Sliding Center. That's where the World Cup finale is scheduled for this year. We certainly hope that the Canadians make their way to the last 2 World Cups after they hosted World Championships. They've had selective sliding over the past several World Cup seasons. A nice job here with a 43.063. That is pretty close to their winning time yesterday in the Nations Cup. Blue sky in the background. I will allude to that a lot this weekend because we're reveling in this rarity Two Americans in today's race. And this is a team with one World Cup victory in its career. Zach DiGregorio and Sean Hollander. DiGregorio, 23 years old. He's originally from the state of Massachusetts, which is about a 4-hour drive from the track in Lake Placid. And Lake Placid is the hometown of Sean Hollander, the backman. 23 years old and 24 years old at the Olympics, where they were somewhat of a surprise entry in 2022. They finished 11th in that doubles competition and were part of a 7th place USA team relay showing. Opening up a 900th of a second lead in the early going, USA versus Canada. Track record could fall if they open up, and they're not going to. A big skid. It appeared out of corner 11 and still skidding. Problems for DiGregorio and Hollander, who were on their way to setting the first track record of the day. There may be many. So disappointing lower half on what has been a fairly disappointing season so far for this American team. They're ranked 10th in the World Cup standings, but their results have been consistently mediocre. 8th, 9th, 10th, 10th, and 11th. Got to give credit to that public address announcer, the track announcer here, keeping up the enthusiasm. He'll do more talking than I do this weekend, and he'll do it at a lot louder volume. First of the Italians now, Emanuel Rieder and Simone Keinswaldner. And good morning to another Rieder, Ludwig Rieder, who I know is watching, because Ludwig has been one of our regular viewers since retiring. We miss Ludwig and a couple of his partners over the years, with one World Cup victory with Patrick Rassner many years ago. But Emanuel and Simone on course now. Had several podiums. They're still looking for their first ever World Cup win and looking for a spot at next year's Olympic Games. Trailing Canada right now, the dark shaded areas of this track, and now the lower lap corners 11, 12, 13, and the finish curve. No chance to make it into the green, but they do come through with a finish time of 43.13. Start time was third fastest at a 3.077. While the track record I'm still predicting will fall, I'm not sure if the start record will. Italy in second place right now. Canada still out in front as we get ready for starters number 6. The first of the always strong Austrians. Here are the world champions. They can wear this bib at least 2 more weeks. And they also finished first at this race, the World Cup in Winterberg last year. Jiri got Ricardo Scholl. Yesterday, they had problems in the final day of training, the seeded group, and ended up with a DNF. Let's see if they can quickly move into the green. They do with a 3.064. Great job with our graphics. You can see right where they are on the track. They're on the Kreisel curve, now shooting their way down to the lower labyrinth. Pretty nice lines here for Gott and Schuff, one of 3 Austrian teams, all of whom have won World Cups in today's race. Track record, not a big surprise there. As we expected, 42.608. That is not just a track record. That breaks the official track record by more than 0.3 of a second, which is a huge margin in the sport of luge. But bear in mind that yesterday in seated training, there were times 1/10 of a second even faster. Great job. They had reached the finish line by the time they had that little hiccup. And that happens a lot on this track here in Winterberg. That finish curve is a tough one. And bear in mind that fact tomorrow during team relay. Marcus Müller and Ansel Haugshaw competing on the World Cup for the first time ever here in Winterberg. Marcus said earlier in the week that the team doesn't have a lot of expectations since they haven't been here in Winterberg for a few years. They slid as juniors here, but that was a different start height. And they've seen that there can be a lot of challenges here at the start. So first things first, let's see how these young Americans, currently ranked 9th in the World Cup standings, how do they handle this start? Not too bad, not too fast, but fairly clean. This team has shown speed on the lower parts of tracks all season long. If they can keep the lines dialed in, they can contend for the top 5. Earlier this year, they had the fastest run of the day in Lillehammer. That was during run number 2. One split time here on this relatively short run. They're already 1500ths back. It should be a second place time, barring any problem right here. To the finish line, 1300ths back. Müller and Haugshaw, the USA, currently second. Canada leading the way, or rather Austria, then USA, Canada, Italy, and China, the top 5.
Second place.
Nice.
Applause from all of the luge fans here. They show their appreciation to the athletes from all of the nations, although they have a little extra enthusiasm for some of their German clubs and athletes that they're rooting for. Nagla and Malaya, the second to go from the Italian program. 7th place finishers at the 2018 Olympic Games. This year, they're ranked 8th in the World Cup standings, with their best result being a 4th in Innsbruck, Austria, which is not too far from their home in Meerans in northern Italy, south Tyrol. They opened up an early lead, but now drop behind the Austrians through the Veltenskreisel. Nagla, 25 years old, Malaya, 27. Former singles athletes. It's not uncommon in the sport of luge for singles athletes to pair up as a doubles team at some point. It's happening a lot among the women now. 42.759, third place, or just 200ths of a second behind the Americans. Gives us an early indication that we had a pretty good run by the USA. Not a lot of weekends they top this Italian team in a single heat. Trivia question, we'll send it out there. Actually, not a trivia question, a prediction. If you're watching and you want to chat with us on the YouTube chat window, let us know your predictions. Who will win the World Championship this year in men's doubles? Got the hometown Canadians, but of course we have Germany and Austria, who have been the powers all season long. But everyone has been chasing the one Latvian team that already has an Olympic medal. Bats and Pluma took a medal in team relay in Yangqing. So give us your predictions. Gold, silver, and bronze World Championships in Whistler men's doubles. A rare appearance in the seeded group for this pair of Slovakians. Tomas Pomarchek and Maciej Zmi, both 25 years old. They had a rough go last week in Altenburg, but they had a top 10 the week before, a 10th place finish in Sigulda.
2 Zehntel der Rückstand bei der zweiten Platzierung.
Well back in the leading Austrians as they cross. This will be a fifth, sixth place time, maybe fifth, 43.117, 1/2 second behind the leading Austrians. Still with just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 remaining in the seeded group. It's possible that Slovakia, with a good second run, could have their second top 10 of the season.
Das dürfte sich ändern, das Tableau beim nächsten Schlitten. Denn oben steht aus Österreich Thomas Stoy und Wolfgang.
Next of the Austrians getting ready at the top, and yes, the Glühwein is flowing. En route to last year's overall World Cup championship, Stoy and Kindle had a rough race here in Winterberg. They ended up 7th, but of note, they did win run number 1. They led after the first run and then had problems in run number 2. Also, yesterday in seated training, they were the fastest of all of the sleds. So certainly a capable team to break their teammates' track record right now. Off to a bit of a slower start, only the 7th fastest start time. And now losing a little bit more time. Both Olympic medalists, Stoy in doubles, Kindle in singles, both in 2022. Not losing any more time, but not enough track to catch Gott and Schuff. This should be second place for Stoy and Kindle, and it is. But actually tied with the Americans to the 1,000th of a second. Amazing. Now that they've moved the doubles and women's start up in Innsbruck, this Winterberg doubles start is one of the shortest, 945 meters. There maybe is one other track in the world, and Whistler may be one of those as well, where the lower start is less than 1,000 meters. All eyes to the top now. The Tobys, Wendel and Alt in search of World Cup victory number 55. That would be the all-time record. They're currently tied with Egert and Bennigan. As I mentioned a couple of times, yesterday in seated training, they bettered the track record, then track record, by about 0.4 of a second. And their time in that training run was about 0.08 faster than the current track record set by the Austrians a few moments ago. So if the Tobys keep it all together here, look for it to go into green, and look for it to stay into green, and look for that TR down at the bottom. Second fastest start time at 37 years old. They're still showing great athleticism to go along with the fact that they probably have more runs on this Winterberg track than any other athlete in today's race, other than maybe Cheyenne Rosenthal. 0.02 of a second, losing a little bit of time to the fast Austrian sleds down below. It will be second place by a pretty safe margin, and they find the time down at the bottom. They pick up a precious 4,000ths on the finish curve, and Toby Wendel rather, tells it all with the closeness of his fingers. By 0.02 of a second, they recapture the track record. It gives you a good indication that the Bavarian sled was right there with the Austrians. It's down there on the last few curves that Austria has pulled away from the rest of the world in so many races this year. Now the World Cup leaders, and the only team to win more than once so far this year, Bats and Pluma of Latvia. And Craig weighs in with his World Championship predictions. Thanks, Craig. He's picking these two Latvians to take it over Stoy and Kindle at the World Championships. We'll see how that holds out. I think that's a pretty good prediction. One thing about the Canadian track is it will be a great equalizer. No real home track advantage for anyone but Team Canada. Let's see first off what Bats and Pluma can do here. 5th place last year at the World Cup in Winterberg, which was the 4th stop of the season last year, early January. To go along with their 2 victories, they also have 2 second place finishes this year. 5 races, 4 podiums for Latvia. 1/10 of a second back. They will not make that up here. Will this be 3rd place? It is. But it's a huge battle for 3rd place at the moment. Bats and Pluma in 3rd, 1200s back. Another 100th behind them is a tie for 4th between Austria and the USA, with Italy, Nagler and Malaya, currently in 6th place. But everyone's chasing Wendel Alt and Gott Schuff, who hold the top 2 positions. If you want to follow through with the split times and the standings ongoing, go to FILLuge.org and hit on Live FIL Ticker, and you will also see the results along with the video here. Tony Egert and Flo Mueller now, starters number 13 out of 22, and 3 remaining in the seeded group. They opened up the season with a victory in Lillehammer, a rarity in the history of World Cup Luge, with a team or athlete winning the World Cup in their first ever event. But that was the case for Flo Mueller, his first ever World Cup. Tony Egert, all he has done is won 54 times in his World Cup history, to go along with several World Championships and a pair of Olympic medals, with former partner Sasha Beneken. Aside from that victory, they've had some growing pains as a doubles team. They are 3rd in the World Cup standings, but just 1 other podium. This should be a top 3, and if it's like the other Germans, then it could even pick up time down here at the bottom. Egert and Mueller in 4th place, losing a bit of time. Right now it's Germany, Austria, Latvia, Germany, and Austria. That's the top 5, with 2 remaining here in the seeded group. I think we perhaps have seen the best to go, although Orlamunder and Gubitz will come up in just a moment, and they come off of a podium finish last year here in Winterberg.
Applaus für den Toni Florian da im Ziel.
Focus on the face of Yannick Mueller, who said earlier in the week how satisfied they were with their 2nd podium finish in a row last week in Altenburg. So they're on a bit of a roll. 2 3rd-place finishes, Sigulda and Altenburg. They had trouble last year here in Winterberg with a DNF in the World Cup race. Mueller and Frauscher. Yannick from the town of Bludenz, where there's a short track, the 2nd Austrian track. And Frauscher from right outside of Eagles, in the small village of Lanz. Great restaurant there if you want schnitzel. The Wildemann. They're keeping it close as well. This is a Germany, Austria, Latvia parade of double sleds to the finish. 7,000ths of a second, folks, separate places 1, 2, and 3. 7 1,000ths of a second, with the rest of the field now a distant over a tenth behind. Incredible. Short track, tight times. This is going to be a terrific run number 2 with 7,000ths of a second, separating all of the podium placers at the moment with one third team still getting ready here. The final of the seeded group, Hannes Orlamanda, Paula Rubitz. They're in 6th place in the World Cup standings. They've had a couple of rough events, but they also had their 2nd career victory earlier this season on their home track in Oberhof, where we're headed again next week. That was their 2nd win on the World Cup, but their first ever in the 2 heat races, with their other win being in the now defunct, perhaps defunct, sprint event. No sprint this year, possibility that it would return at some point. That'll be a discussion for the offseason. Handling the Kreisel pretty good. 700s back at the moment. We saw the Tobys pick up time at the bottom. Everyone else loses time. Just a question of losing as little as possible. This is probably 5th place, maybe 4th. It's a 6th. 1300s back. Patrick Leitner, head coach of the German program in his first season. He seemed somewhat pleased, although Hannes shakes his head. The top 7 includes 3 from Austria, 3 from Germany, and 1 Latvian. So the Austrian, Germany, Latvia parade continues in doubles luge. Those positions are not going to change over the course of the next 5 sleds as we make our way out of the seeded group. We'll flash up the standings once that's over, but again, 7,000ths of a second separating the top 3 sleds. I'm not sure if I ever remember a race that close among 3 sleds at the top. Back to the qualifiers, and Bosman and Mick had a good Nations Cup yesterday as they missed being in the top 5 in the start list today by just 1 position. Both are still competing in singles in the Junior World Cup. In fact, Bruno Mick also got a little taste of the main World Cup a few weeks ago in Sigulda. The young Slovakian team. It'll be interesting, if nothing else, to see how they do against their Slovakian teammates who are currently in 11th place. Skidding into corner 14, not good with the steep uphill to the finish line. And they lose a lot of time as a result. They were losing time throughout, from a 10th back to 2 tenths, 4 tenths, 6th, 7th, and then a full second. Those were the split stops, the intervals along the way. Maurizio tuning in on our YouTube chat, as usual, as he does every week, praising the Austrian materials, as Austria is currently in 2nd, 3rd, and 7th place in today's race, but Germany is in 1st, 5th, and 6th. Romanian entrant. They did not race last year for some reason in Winterberg, but for the most part, Shetland and Serban have been fixtures on the World Cup. Their best result this year, a 14th place in Innsbruck, Austria, but they've had top 20s in 4 of the 5 races. They struggled a bit in Lillehammer at the World Cup opener. It was a lot of fun returning to Norway this season to open the World Cup year. Lillehammer not on the schedule, I don't believe, for next year, as the season will open up in Innsbruck, its old traditional spot, and then make its way to North America, to the USA for a couple of World Cups, before the push towards Milan Cortina. Challenging labyrinth now for the Romanians. Looking to get out in front of stay in the top 10 here, not even close, 17th place. Track giving away a lot of time now down at the bottom. I'm not suggesting that it's not in good shape, but certainly if you're going to make little mistakes on the upper part of the track, they seem like they will magnify now down below. The shades are closed again on several parts of this track. On the Omega, which is up near the top, that first big curve, the Kreisel, corner 10, the exit of 11 into the labyrinth, and then the last corner, the uphill of curve 14. All right, Andre Monzi watching. He's predicting a 3.111 start now for Hoy and Kaczmar. I love the predictions on the YouTube chat. Andre, good luck tomorrow, by the way, and congratulations on your podium 2 weeks ago in Sigulda with the team relay for Ukraine. 3.007, better than the Monzi prediction. Yes, they emerged from the shades and out of the Kreisel. Ukrainian team in 14th in the World Cup. Their best result was a 15th place in Sigulda, which is effectively Ukraine's home track. The top 18 will qualify for a second run, and we've seen 18 now. Zhitlan and Serban from Romania are on the bubble. They're in 18th place with 4 teams remaining. We have a Latvian team and a Polish team that certainly would be expected to make it into the top 18.
Hier stehen wir noch oben als nächstes. Sehen wir dann aus Rumänien. Tudor, Stefan Handaric und Sebastian Motzka. From Romania, the next sled.
Great look at the focus on the eyes of Stefan Handaric, the second of the Romanian entries in today's men's doubles. We'll also see one team for women's doubles a little later on today for Romania, just a few minutes away, actually. Handaric pairs up with Sebastian Mocha, 23 years old and 22 respectively. Their personal coach they list as Valentin Cretu, which tells you a lot, because Cretu, other than being a father and a college graduate, is also a singles luge slider, also helps with the equipment, is not only the unofficial team leader among these athletes, but along with Jan Apostol, does a lot of coaching for Team Romania. A full second back, and at the moment not looking good for run number 2 for Romania, as they fall behind their teammates Zhitlan and Serban.
Finish time 43.9.
Romania hanging on by the thinnest of margins right now. Zhitlan and Serban in 18th place with 3 teams remaining.
Drei Schlitten sitzen noch da oben. Wie ist die Stimmung im Ziel, Jürgen?
Die ist hier köstlich, würde ich sagen. Ja?
Okay, get ready for the youngest team in today's competition. And the next entry from Ukraine, Maxim Panchuk and Andrei Mutz. Straighten that sled out, guys, as they get the green light. It's a medium ramp here. You get a good look here from behind. Fairly steep drop off, but a quick one. Right into corner number 4. Not a perfect line as they skid over to the left wall. Losing about 0.3 of a second already in the first few curves into the Kreisel. Not faring well for their run at a second heat performance. Panchuk and Mutz, 18 years old and 17 years old. One and done on this day as they flip over out of corner number 14. Nothing spectacular and nothing really costly, as they had already given away their chance at a second run. But still, it's the goal of all of these athletes to have a clean top to bottom. So unfortunately, they're the first to turn that sled over. They do get a finish time. 20th place out of the 20 right now. Yeah, the problem happened in the entrance of 14. And then by the time they emerged from the darkness of the tunnel of the finish curve, they had that sled turned over. And again, keep that in mind for tomorrow's team relay, because not only do you need to be fast, you need to be clean on a challenging exit of 14 to be in good shape to hit the pad. Now, things are interesting here with the final 2 sleds of run number 1. No one's going to challenge for the top spot, but these 2 teams, one from Latvia, one from Poland, they should be in a position to move into the top 20. Both of them failed to finish in the Nations Cup. Well, actually, the Latvians here, they had a DNF. They had a crash in Nations Cup. But they're certainly a pretty strong team. Currently ranked 19th in the World Cup standings with 1 top 10. They'll be followed by a Polish team that was disqualified yesterday in Nations Cup and has been on the podium here in the past in Winterberg. So simply put, they'll need to be within 1.2 seconds of the leaders to be in the top 18. I think Zhitlin and Zerban are getting ready to wave goodbye to run number 2, because this is a pretty clean run so far for Latvia, although anything can happen down here. 13-14 combination. 14th place right now, 43.288 with 1 sled remaining. It's the Americans, Di Gregorio and Hollander, now on the bubble in 18th place and facing the possibility of missing out in run number 2.
Finish time 43.28.
Final sled now getting ready at the top. Here's the situation. 0.007 of a second separate the top 3 in the standings. More to the point, right now in 18th place, the USA, Di Gregorio and Hollander, waiting and watching to see if they'll get a second run. And their fate lay in the hands of Team Poland. Himilevsky and Kovalevsky. Yesterday, they were disqualified in the Nations Cup. It's actually their second disqualification of the season in World Cup racing. But they're a good team with a top 10 already this year, a 7th in Sigulda, and a podium finish many seasons ago here in Winterberg in a race, to be honest, that didn't feature a lot of the top athletes. There was a little bit of a boycott due to track conditions. But the track has been great today. It's actually been great the last several seasons, rain or shine. 3/10 of a second. They need to be a bit under 1.2. So basically, they need to be clean to get into the second run, and they're handling the lower labyrinth really well here. This actually could be like a 13th place finish. It is 13th, 43.210. I'm starting to sound like John Morgan with the time predictions down here in the lower corners, and hitting them, nailing them.
Ja, der spannendste Moment kommt ja noch, wenn die beiden gleich auf die Waage müssen wieder.
Good showing. Let's hope they don't get disqualified. Unfortunate for the one USA team of Di Gregorio and Hollander on the outside looking in as they miss out in run number 2 by about 0.07 of a second. One other USA team currently in 7th place, trailing 3 Germans, 3 Austrians, and 1 Latvian. And check out those split times on the right. Germany, Austria separated by 7/1000ths of a second. This is going to shape up to be one of the closest and potentially most exciting second runs on the World Cup this season. 7/1000ths of a second. All of the top 18 qualify here, and they'll look to ride the elevator in run number 2. As you see, USA, the Romanians, and 1 Ukraine team out as they get eliminated here after 1 run. Enjoy the beautiful pictures. Very quick break here. We're going to move in about 2 minutes right into women's doubles. So grab a quick cup of water, very quick bathroom break, and we'll be right back with you. Women's doubles coming your way in a minute or 2.
Beim Doppel der Männer im ersten Lauf. Vorne die beiden Tobis mit dieser Wahnsinnszeit von 42,606. Auf Platz 2 gab Schöpf mit einer Zeit von 42,608, also 2000stel der Abstand. 5000stel dahinter dann Müller, Rauscher. Also so knapp geht das hier zu im 1000stel-Bereich auf den ersten 3 Plätzen. Und die Führenden des Weltcups dann Botsblume dahinter aus Lettland.
So, liebe Freunde hier in Winterberg, ist nur eine ganz kurze Pause, bis die Damen jetzt gleich in den ersten Lauf gehen. Das heißt, ihr habt ein bisschen Zeit, euch vielleicht mit einem Abkurs oder irgendwas heißt. Guck mal, aufs Stichwort. Glühwein und Würstchen im Brötchen. Ihr macht es richtig. Also, stärkt euch ein bisschen, versorgt euch. Wir brauchen euch natürlich heute und an diesem Wochenende hier als ja quasi das Stimmungsbett, das die Sportlerinnen und Sportler mit Highspeed und Höchstleistungen hier zu uns ins Ziel trägt. Und kann ich noch einen kleinen Soundcheck haben? Sind wir bereit für die Damen gleich? Ich finde, es ist auch sehr fair verteilt. Die lauten Glocken und alles schön hoch auf der Tribüne. Das heißt, wenn die Athletinnen und Athleten hier reinkommen, dann kriegen sie einen Applaus. Ja, und dann steigert sich das Ganze mit dem Gang hier an der Wintersport und am Treppchen vorbei. Also, als hätten wir Regie geführt. Ihr seid großartig. Winterberg, habt Spaß.
Stop number 6 on the EBERSPA Luge World Cup this weekend, also doubling as the European Championships. That's an event of no small importance. In fact, it's, in many of these athletes' minds, the second most important event of the year behind the World Championships in 3 weeks in Canada. We're in Winterberg, Germany. Continues to be a great day with the temperature just below freezing, about -2 Celsius, 28 degrees Fahrenheit, under rare sunshine. As we turn our attention now for the women's doubles, run number 1. 14 in the start list today, as they'll make their way down through the seeded group, and then a couple of other qualifying athletes to conclude the action. For the women, it's Egla and Kipp of Austria on a roll like none other by any athlete this year. 5 races, 4 victories, and those 4 wins have been in the last 4 events. So they are riding an incredible streak. They will be starters number 10 in today's competition. Behind them, Degenhardt and Rosenthal, also 4 podiums this season, all second place. But Jessica and Cheyenne here at home, Cheyenne literally in her hometown, they have had great training times this week. I believe they won the race here last year. So they're going to be a very formidable challenge to end that Austrian string. But you're looking at the face of Raleigh, Raluca Stramaturaro, and her teammate, Mihaela Manalescu. They won the World or the Nations Cup race yesterday, and we need to qualify that. They did it on a very small field of sleds, I believe 3 or 4, and they were the only one of those teams that actually put down a finishing time. But still, top of the podium is the top of the podium, so it was a good day for Team Romania, who's had a very up and down season, including a crash in Sigulda, which forced them to miss that event. Very deliberate settle for Raluca, and we've been touching on this all season long. I'm looking forward to seeing Raluca in a couple of weeks to ask her about her keeping the head up a little bit. She keeps this head a bit higher than a lot of the other athletes do, singles and doubles. You give away a little bit of aerodynamic time, but perhaps in exchange for comfort and safety. I don't know about the comfort, though. That takes a lot of neck muscles. Team Romania to the finish with a time of 44.165. Track record, by the way, Egla and Kip last year in winning the World Cup here. They had a 43.496. And the Americans hold the start record. They'll be coming up a little later on. If this team from Romania qualifies for the Olympics next year, and there's no reason to believe they won't, then Raluca will be the rarest of Olympic lugers, a 40-year-old Olympian. She's had a great career, including a top 7 at the Olympics in singles. Now quickly into the seeded group, and it has also been hit or miss for Eitberger and Machina in their first year together. Diana and Lena, 2 6th-place finishes and a 7th to go along with a couple of crashes. And Diana finished 11th here last year with her former partner, Saskia Schirmer, with whom she also had 1 World Cup victory in their career. They're in the green, that's not a surprise. But on this great day, in great track conditions, let's see how close they can come to the track record. Half second up right now. Eitberger and Machina looking for their best result of the season, which would be a top 5. They turn over in the finish. They don't give up much time at all, but the concern on the face of Coach Patrick Leitner.
43.57.
They seem fine. They're getting up pretty quickly. As you see, there's a little catwalk right next to the track so they can exit the track pretty quickly. Well, Diana has 2 races in her original hometown of the Oberhof region this year. This is the closest race to Lena's home and where Diana now lives, both from Bavaria. Second sled today, we've seen turnover there out of 14. That also happened in the men's doubles. Probably gave away a little time. Now the first of 2 Italian teams. Natalie Falkensteiner Annalena Huber. The youngest of the Italian teams, Oberstolz and Kofler, who impressed many over the last couple of weeks, they are not here. They're competing in Junior World Cup this week, I believe, cross country in Oberhof. This pair currently ranked 8th in the World Cup standings, 8th also being their best race results of the year in Innsbruck and in Sigulda. Quarter of a second right now behind Germany. Now we'll see, we'll at least get an indication of how badly the Germans were hurt down there at the bottom. Probably not at all, as Italy loses another 1/10 of a second with a clean line. Well, it looked clean. It wasn't clean according to Armin Zugler's reaction. Great look at the, what you can sort of call an excuse of grooves at the start. It's not like skeleton where you put that sled runner right into a groove and you're off and going with very few worries.
Anschließend sehen wir aus der Ukraine Olena Stetsky und Alexandra Mok. The next sled from Ukraine.
They do pack them in here for the races in Winterberg, not just in the Veltins Kreisel curve, which is a party location, but a great brat stand down right at the finish area where there's extended bleachers for the Luge spectators. Stechkiv and Mok now for Ukraine. Olena Stechkiv appearing, at least for the time being, to make the full transition from singles to doubles. This will be the 3rd week in a row she's concentrating only on doubles. She's 30, Alexandra is 20. They're both from the city of Lviv, which some pronounce Lviv. We have a lot of Ukrainian viewers watching today. So if you have a proper pronunciation, please let me know. Lviv, Lviv. 0.15 of a second behind Germany right now. Still ahead, 2 from the USA. 1 more Austrian team. 1 more Italian team. A couple of Latvian teams that have been on the podium this year. A lot of racing still to happen here, but here is Ukraine at 126 kilometers an hour, 0.4 of a second in back of Germany. That is the fastest speed of all of the sleds, 78.4 miles per hour. So that's interesting, and it's an indication that this is one of those tracks where you don't take speed with a grain of salt, but it certainly isn't your predominant indicator of how they're placing time-wise at the finish. Because that was the fastest speed by a pretty wide margin, about 1.5 miles faster than the Italians and the Germans, who lead still. Maya Chan, Sophia Gordon. Chan returning this year with a new partner. This is now their 3rd race together for the USA. Top 10 in both races. Chan has podiumed in her career with her former partner. In fact, she and Rianne Weiler finished 6th last year in this World Cup. And yesterday they did a very good job in the final day of training in the seeded training group, where they had the 4th fastest time. Luge fans screaming out of the Kreisel here as their 1400s back. Keeping it clean will put them in 2nd place for the time being. Now to curve 13 and 14. Not perfect lines, so they're bleeding a little bit of time as they cross with a 2nd place time of 16 hundredths behind the leading Germans. Heidberger and Machina continue to lead the way, and you'll recall just a few moments ago they crashed around the finish curve, but it was very likely within a few meters of the finish line, so they may have given away a couple of hundredths, but not much more. Right now it's Germany leading over USA Italy, then Ukraine and Romania. Those are the top 5. 5 down, 9 still to come. The team from Poland, Nikola Domowicz and Dominika Piwkowska. 13th place last year here in Winterberg. Still young athletes, 22 and 21 years old, respectively. Nikola from the town of Górny Wielki, and Dominika lives in Wrocław.
Rückstand bei der ersten Zwischenzeit fast 2 Zehntel für das polnische Doppel, das Nikola Domowicz.
Already a quarter of a second back. Poland really struggles to find the fastest equipment from week in and week out. And this team has had some struggles through the year, including a crash during one of the team relay events. Poland to the finish. 44.174, fifth place, faster only than Romania right now.
Nikola Domowicz and Dominika Piwkowska from Poland.
Nice job on the settle. Top 10 in 4 of the 5 races so far this year in women's doubles for this Polish team. Bear in mind that at the beginning of the year, the field in doubles was tiny. Sometimes 11 sleds, I think only 10 in one of the races. All right, we've got a very exciting team to watch coming up next. Marta Robanica, Kitya Bogdanova, still very young, 19 and 20 years old. They like this track, but they say they've always had trouble in corner number 9, so they really want to fix that. And they also had problems yesterday in seated training. But these young Latvians have been on the podium twice this season. They've been in the top 5 in all but 1 race. And if they have these sleds set up well, this could be a team to challenge the leading Germans right now, because they are generally very fast down at the bottom. Here is that set, curve 9. And they do have a little bit of a correction, but not a major skid. And they are tight, 300s back. This could be close. Latvia and Germany, and do they move into the green? They do, with the track record, 43.482. Robanica and Bogdanova. This is one of the youngest and more exciting group of athletes in the sport right now, as they are showing unbelievable consistency here in just their 2nd year. Really, they only raced together last year for about a half a season. And they are among a small group of medal favorites for the World Championships. Track record goes down. It was a 1-year-old track record set by the Austrians. Now, I think a lot of teams, a lot of people are rooting for these two, Andrea Better and Marian Oberhofer, off to a relatively slow start. They've been in the top 5 in 4 of the races, but still looking for their first podium, despite being the 2-time defending World Cup overall champions. Andrea Better, Marian Oberhofer. I am predicting a podium this week, going out on a limb here, that they'll finally break onto the podium. Already 1/10 of a second up. Now Robanica and Bogdanova picked up a lot of time down below. So one little glitch here for Italy, and they'll lose that lead quickly. They're losing some of it already. to the finish. This will be close, but it is a track record as they find time down at the bottom. Andrea Vetter and Marian Oberhofer, two former singles athletes who have had great success here in doubles. A big smile for Andrea, one of the first we've seen this season, coming up the outrun from her.
With a finish time 43.37.
They really did it well from top to bottom. Their start time was the second fastest, only behind Germany's Eitberger and Machina. It's Italy, Latvia, Germany, USA, the top four right now. But we have the best in the world coming up next at the top. There they are. They have been nothing short of perfection the last 4 weeks. Selina Egla and Laura Kipp. In fact, they had a bit of a crash in the opening run of the opening race, but then came back with an incredible second heat to finish 6th. And they have won the last 4 races. And of those 8 heats, I think they've taken 7 of the 8. 6, at least 6. Giving up some time here at the start. Only the 7th fastest start time, which you don't want on a short track. 700s now. Will we have our 3rd consecutive track record? They finished 3rd last year at the World Cup here and had an unofficial track record yesterday in the seated training. Now 800s. To the finish. The spectacular run continues for Team Austria. Egla and Kipp, not only the 3rd consecutive track record here in the first run, but they do it by a huge margin. In fact, their advantage over Italy is exactly the same as Italy's advantage over Latvia. Right now, Austria on front, Italy 0.111 back, and then Latvia another 0.11 in back of them. Selina Egla and Laura Kipp in search of World Cup win number 5 in a row. That's absolutely Langenhanian, if you know what I mean. The hits keep on coming with the next of the Latvians, Andau Paita, Zana Kaluma. 5 races rather. 4 top 5s, 1 podium. That was a 3rd place in Innsbruck. Little interesting on the settle there as Anda's left foot had to do a lot of work to stay off of that left wall. But they had a fast start time, 3rd fastest, quickly in the green, but by just 7,000ths of a second. Austria can do no wrong this year in women's doubles, so they'll be tough to catch. But this will be an interesting run right now for 2nd, 3rd, or 4th. Sounded like a bit of a skid, but it's looking pretty good in the lower labyrinth curves. 11, 12, 13, and now 14. They've lost quite a bit of time down here at the bottom. And I'm not quite sure what happened, but that coach certainly knows. Right now, 5th place ahead of the USA, behind Germany. So it's Austria, Italy, and Latvia still holding down the top 3 spots with 2 teams remaining among the seeded group. Egla and Kipp out in front. Now, I'm not sure if Jessica Degenhardt or Cheyenne Rosenthal have ever actually been bridesmaids at friends' weddings. But one thing we know is they have certainly been bridesmaids this season on the EBERSPA Luge World Cup Tour. 5 races, 4 second-place finishes. So they're looking for their first victory. Cheyenne said earlier this week, very much psyched to be on her home track. She loves racing here. And Jessica had her family at home in Altenburg last week, so now it's Cheyenne's time to race in front of friends and family on her home track here in Winterberg. They won the World Cup here last year, and they were pretty quick all week in training. Second fastest start time right now. From what we've seen so far in the last several weeks, you can be perfect and still trail Egla and Kipp of Austria. So let's see how much they can open up here. 700s now, 400s. So trending in the wrong direction right now for the two-time world champions. Now behind, but they should still be in the top two here. Let's check it out at the finish line. Second place, within 700. Head coach Patrick Leitner pleased with that result. Come on, no one's caught the Austrians in the last month. So to keep it that close is a bit of an accomplishment and puts them in a good position for run number 2. Okay, it's Austria over Germany, Italy, Latvia. Top 4 now with one team remaining among the seeded athletes. They've been on the podium 4 times in 5 races this season, including a victory. It's the pair from the United States, Forgan and Kirkby. Siobhan and Sophia. Siobhan said earlier this week that they've had their ups and downs. They've had trouble in the past here in Winterberg. But when there's good weather, they really like Winterberg. Well, Siobhan, you have your wish. It's beautiful weather today. Let's see what the Americans can do. 24 years old, Siobhan Forgan, 23, Sophia Kirkby. They've been together as a partnership ever since doubles has been part of the World Cup. This is now the 4th season, and they set a start record. They better their own start record, 3.111, bettering their record by, let's see, about 200ths of a second. If the lines are good, this fast sled can stay in the top 3 here. They're only 1,000th of a second right now behind Austria. This next split will be telling. They've lost a 10th. So now they're fighting for the top 5, and they have a huge skid into curve number 14. They give it all away. A very disappointing final 2 corners for Team USA as they're on the outside looking in now. And one of the few times this season we've seen a disgruntled look on the face of Siobhan Forgan coming up the outrun. A start record given away down at the bottom. It was right here the troubles began, skidding in 11 and 12, 13, and then this entrance into 14. A lot of trouble because a big uphill section awaited them to the finish line. Sophia still always willing to play to the cameras and to the spectators, showing her class and her sportsmanship despite a tough run for Team USA. Now, Beatty Podolsky, Canadian fans from Calgary, please correct me on that pronunciation. Kaylee Allen, in their second World Cup together in their first season. They finished 7th, or Beatty did. She finished 7th earlier this season in Winterberg in singles at the Junior World Cup. She's only 19 years old. Kaylee Allen, 21. Both from Calgary, but both will be sliding in Whistler in 3 weeks at the World Championships. In fact, all of these athletes will head to Whistler in about 9 or 10 days to get a full week of training in before World Championship week. A little bit of an issue keeping the sled straight here now out of curve corner number 9 and 11. No major incidents, but a lot of little corrections, a lot of little mistakes. Everyone will qualify for a run number 2, as we have less than the allotted 18 in today's field. Fewer. Good grammar, Tim. And my apologies across the board. Those were the Slovakians, Probaksa and Spivnova, that came through with the 13th place finish as we were having technical issues here. And now we set the table for our friends from Canada. Both from Calgary. There was such a great track. Canada Olympic Park, as one of the athletes put on their bio, Canada Olympic Park, RIP, rest in peace. Because we had so much fun there at that facility, great facility top to bottom. But with Canada and Wintersports, it's constantly a battle for funding from your national federations, your National Olympic Committee. And we're just happy that the track in Whistler exists. So Team Canada, with the hope of a top 12 result perhaps here. They finished 15th last week in their World Cup debut. As I mentioned a moment ago, Podolski competed in singles earlier this season here in Winterberg in Junior World Cup. They turn it over, and they are going to be hard-pressed. They should reach the finish line. It's going to be very tight. Will they emerge from that dark tunnel? They do not. Again, the cameras, especially in the dark covered area here, don't show how steep that is. So unfortunate that Team Canada will not get a second run. It will be only a field of 13 athletes. As we see in the shadows, certainly looks like they're okay. But it was a pretty quick turnover right there in the entrance to 14.
Schauen wir aufs Tableau. Vorne die beiden Österreicherinnen Selina Egle und Lara Kipp. Dann das deutsche Doppel. Jessica Dienreich.
Labyrinth, not a problem, but then they may have been on just the wrong spot of the track as they clip that right wall, turn that sled over. This is only about 25 meters or so from the finish line, but it's steep, it's uphill. As you can see, they stayed in contact with that sled, may have even righted the sled once it disappeared under the shades. And as we see, they're okay as run number 1 comes to an end. I should note that the third German team, Storch and Potts, who have done well on this track in the past, they pulled out of this race yesterday, as Coach Robert Fegg can only shrug his shoulders for Team Canada. We will see Canada later today in run number 2 of men's doubles, as well as a lot of entries tomorrow in the singles competition. Egla and Kipp, a track record 700s up on Degenkart, Rosenthal, Vetter and Oberhofer as predicted in podium position. But the Latvians, the other Germans and the Americans lurking not that far behind. But it will be a fun run number 2 to determine those spots. Will the Austrians win for the 5th week in a row, or can the Germans take their spot at the top of the podium and win for their first time this season? All of those questions will be answered soon. We'll be back first with the second run of men's doubles. That's coming your way in about 40 minutes. So a little bit of a break here. Step away, but please be back. A lot of racing still coming your way from Winterberg as the EBERSPA World Cup Luge Tour continues.
Du hast gerade Luft geholt, du wolltest mir gerade was zuwerfen. Die Heidi. Ja, welche Heidi? Ja, ich hätte jetzt einen Hunderter auf die Lehne gesetzt, aber... die Heidi. Warte, ich guck mal zu euch raus.